I am super excited for today's conversation. This is yet another research series video where I bring in a very special guest, Dr. Steve Sawyer. He is a professor at Syracuse University School of Information. Dr. Steve Sawyer is one of the leading scholars examining how technology shapes work, organizations, and society as a whole. His research has explored topics including digital collaboration, professional knowledge work, organizational change, and is also currently doing work on the gig economy, digital labor platforms, and how we can better shape tools and resources for non-traditional workers. And I'm so excited about his thoughtful opinions and how he brings decades of research in previous shifts in the workplace and how that applies to today, what we can learn from the past, and what he thinks about the future. The first question I have for you to get started is, so you've spent part of your career understanding the relationship between technology, organizations, and the future of work. What really got you interested in that intersection?
How did you get here, Steve? You've heard me tell the joke again and again, and I'll tell it here, which is a mentor, a graduate studies mentor, somebody who I really liked, the late Merrill Lewis, said, social scientists often study things they're not good at. I've always been interested in how people work. Like, how do you make this thing happen? Did you have courses on how to be a good worker when you were going through school?
No.
Now, where did we learn to do work, right?
Yeah.
Did your parents take you to work? And the kind of work your parents and family did is probably not the kind of work you're doing anyway. So how, did we model from what we see on TV? So I was just always fascinated on something we're going to spend most of our life doing. And so the other thing is, I started working in the 1980s when we went from paper and pencil to laptops and desktops in 5 years. And I had never seen anything happen. I just didn't know, what a change the world had. And that just on top of everything else, like, what is going on in this thing I don't understand? That's why. I was just super fascinated in watching the people who are supposed to know what's happening be just as unsure about what's going on as me just starting out. Like, this is not comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one more thing. I came through high school and college knowing I was pretty smart, but probably way less smart than I thought I was, if that makes any sense. So the inability to work with other people or to make sense of things really impressed me for like, wow, why is this so hard? Because obviously I'm a very smart person and this is really hard.
Right.
So there's a little humility lesson in there too, maybe. Anyway,
Yeah.
So that's why. I'm fascinated by this complex thing that most of us aren't trained to do and then spend our life doing.
Right.
And then new things show up all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Like right now, like you just mentioned something that was interesting. So back then you saw that like the people that were supposed to know what to do were just navigating it alongside you. So are you seeing the same thing play out like currently? And like
Yeah.
what else? What are your thoughts around the current shift?
Well, again, people learn to organize and manage from experience and from of mistakes and from reading, but I don't think most managers read management literature. And I don't think they just figure shit out, technical term, along the way. And so what happens if the rules change? What happens if stuff shows up that you've never understood before? So the two stories real quick. In the 1980s, one of my jobs was to replace 40 men, all men, 40 men who'd been draftsmen, drawing ships for 40 years. Many of the men had started in their teens during World War II. And now in the 1980s, 40 years later, they're in their 60s. And many of these people had drawn every diagram, every drawing of the ships they were working on. Like there 100 drawings, they'd done them all by hand.
Wow.
And we were scanning those documents in and replacing these 40, 65-year-old men with 20-year-olds who kind of understood computer-aided design, but nothing about ships or about how things worked or about the cognitive effort of saying, well, I can draw this pipe here, but it's going to bump into like these old men knew so much about these ships in their head. They had to, because they had to take two-dimensional things and make three dimensions.
Right.
And what do you mean you have to name the file? I have a hanging, like, it was just so interesting. And I just thought about how all of a sudden, as the person doing CAD, I had more control over that company than the owner of the company. And I didn't know shit about the company. Like a mistake I could make could end, like all the drawings of that ship could go away by
Wow.
accident. In the same way that a fire could go away. And you can imagine how scared they were about fires.
Yeah.
So I think about that and the fact that we were debilitating the leadership and all they could do was ask questions. And I was super impressed with the quality of the questions they are asking, but also the worry that those questions, like what's going to happen. So fast forward 40 some years and suddenly AI shows up. And the problem was I kind of understood CAD.
Yeah. And now,
Right. So it's
yeah.
even more debilitating. So what do most people do? We do similes and we do metaphors and we do comparisons. It's kind of like this. But what do you do? I have a very precocious 5-year-old with the power of a weightlifter who's now managing my data, right? And they're not going to talk to me. Is that the mental model? So I just watch these managers, and then we have the believers and the disbelievers, as you point out, the utopian and dystopian views. So I'm very curious what's going to happen because this is a more complex environment.
Yeah.
In the last class I led, I'm like, look, I know you think I'm old, but I wasn't around when Gutenberg's press came about. But I can't imagine what the monks were thinking when all of a sudden any old person could write something and print it.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly the control of knowledge had left the church.
Right.
And nobody knew how to manage it. And I think, so I don't know. It's a very interesting time, and I think that the pressures to go fast. What's that line in entrepreneurialism? Go fast and break things.
Yeah.
Right. That makes a lot of sense if you're trying to make a better ice cream cone.
Right.
Customer data, decisions about who should live in and what operations they get, decisions about whether we should shoot down that plane or not. I don't know if I want to go fast. Right. So I just think it's an interesting moment. So I don't think we've had a moment like this.
Right. And I think we can learn a lot about like the story of the 40 men that you had to replace, right? That were drawing, like what happened to those workers? Like how did they must have either like retired, did they get new skills, go on to other jobs? Like what happened there?
Well, I can talk about those in specific because I think about them all the time. Because I was 26 and absolutely certain this computer was a good thing. And they were literally all in their 60s. There was nobody under 60. And they were worried because nobody was taking on the job because the training to do this was so long. And there are very few young men or young women at the time that really wanted to sit down and learn drafts making, right? And if they did, they were thinking about the fact that the money's in CAD, not in drawing, right? And so we were getting, even their kids, these people's kids didn't want to do the job. So we were facing this epistemic crisis that there's a few people that might do it, but we couldn't replace the expertise or the talent or the training. And how did a company get to where they had 40 people all in their 60s? Why didn't they try to replace them for the 40 years?
Ahead. Yeah, try to bring in people, train others.
Yeah. And they said, well, it's just easier to keep them, right? It was a very wonderful place to work in that sense. But literally in the 6 years or 5 years I was attached to it, 60 people or a bunch of people retired. They kept some people around to help out. They cut them down to 20
The
hours because
knowledge.
they were happy to do that. But
Yeah.
literally, they created a situation where the workforce was going to leave anyway, and they just didn't know what to do. They picked up CAD because they didn't plan for anything else. CAD was an emergency,
Yeah.
not a replace. They weren't replacing people. They're trying to hold on anyway. So I don't know what happened to them. They all retired. A couple of them stuck around. But the bigger picture is, when you can see these kind of technologies coming in, it's a change in the way an organization runs, right? And so the next thing we looked at was they're trying to automate software development. They've been trying to automate software development for 60 years now. Maybe they actually started doing it in the past three,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But generally, a good programmer could outperform any system. Now, I think maybe there's some, yeah, I don't know. But I guess
Yeah.
the question that I'm bringing up here is what happens to those people? I don't know. We did that study just as you were coming into the doctoral program. We were wrapping up a 15-year study of real estate agents.
Right.
And in the late 1990s, everybody said, well, now that you can get information about your house online, why do you need a real estate agent? Right. Well, there's more real estate agents now than there were then. Because it turns out that real estate agents do more than just repeat what's
Give you
available.
info. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so I thought the real estate agent was a perfect example of a bunch of people who said, I could be replaced or I could use this to my benefit.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought about those CAD guys, the drafts people who stuck around to help all the people understand what CAD was showing them.
Yeah.
Right? So much knowledge. And what was interesting to me is they all got the CAD system so fast. They couldn't do the commands, but they could
have all
look
the
at
knowledge.
right,
Yeah.
they could look at the drawing and say, oh no, this is wrong and this is,
Yeah.
the mechanical parts, but the cognitive parts were there, right?
Right.
Certainly we can get software to write code, but a really good programmer can look at that code and go, oh, okay, this makes sense. I can see this, right? How do you balance the know-how, just to do it, with the know what, the what it matters,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And so I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah, is that where we are right now? Because I see a lot of like enthusiasts being super psyched about AI just replacing a ton of workers. Like we're gonna be so much more efficient,
Right.
we're gonna do things faster, so we don't need as many developers, testers, whatever that looks like. There's reports on like which jobs might be more likely to
Every
be
job, yeah,
automated. But
yeah,
then at the same time, now we're coming across like, well, actually the tokens that you're gonna be spending to run these tasks are going to cost as much as employees did before or even more.
right. So here's a really cool comparison to that. So across the 70s and 80s and 90s, the largest shrinkage in offices was the staff, right? We went from secretaries, literally a thing called a secretary or a typist. We had typing pools and administrative assistants because we had to give, we had all these people that supported knowledge workers and did the work, right? But then we thought, well, why would we want to have somebody typing stuff up when we can teach Steve so Steve can type, right? So Steve takes over typing. I'm 22 words per minute, 85% accuracy. And I replaced Charlene, who was 120 words per minute, 99% accurate. So I'm 1/5 of her ability.
Yeah.
Right. But now we grow but I cost more than her.
Yeah.
Right. But since I'm doing her job at 1/5 the speed, you're going to need another one of me because you need it, and
The math doesn't work out. Like
the math isn't mathing.
the math isn't mathing. What are we
Right.
doing here?
So now instead of a 1 to 10 relationship, we have a 1 to 40, but we need 50 because we're all doing a shitty job on the stuff that used to be done well.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess it's so common now, we don't even think about it. Right.
Yeah.
And just think how much time we spend or scheduling meetings and organizing, and you're doing it and I'm doing it, right? And you know how bad I am at it. So you've experienced it, right? Um, so it's a false decision. So
Yeah.
we have bigger companies, and then where do we lay off? We lay off those workers because, right?
It's just like we perceive these things to be better. We don't actually do the math. We don't like break it down. Like, what is it? What is the ROI? What are we actually doing here?
Yeah, well, it's again, if you're on a spreadsheet, if you and I are sitting at and you've done this with your job, we're at a spreadsheet, and here are the income, here are the costs.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the income, here are the costs. So I could reduce my costs with the same income. I have more flexibility, right? So I make some assumptions. Oh, yeah, Isabel can do that,
Yeah.
right? Work smarter, not harder.
And that's how we get to where we are.
That's how we get to where we are. At the same level, at the individual level, you're like, I've got 40 hours right now of work, and this new thing is pretty good, so I know I can squeeze it in somehow.
Yeah. It's a false sense of
Yeah. And so it's not that people are cheating. It's just that we don't have really good understanding of what it takes to do it, right?
yeah.
Um, one of the things I'll point out again and again is we tend to tremendously underestimate what the other workers do,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And so it's super easy to replace something that you don't understand because
Right.
you
Until
don't
they're
have enough
gone.
knowledge to know that you're making a mistake.
Yeah. Once they're gone and you realize, wait a minute, they were actually yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
So so with all these conversations then about like the opportunities and risks of AI, like what are the important questions you think that we're missing that we're just overlooking, not talking enough about?
Well, so one of the questions you asked is what's going on, and so I think that I'm going to use an academic term. I should have my bow tie on. The socio-technical reality of the thing is that it's not just the technology and it's not just the people, it's how the two come together. So, two examples. Say that you want to write a report, or one example, same situation, but two different ways. Say you want to write a report. Hey, Isabel, what are all the things that your new software can do, right? Or could be used. So you could sit down and kind of write stuff out, and you could possibly even interact with Claude or Gemini and get some guidance. You could talk to some other people, and you put together a little bit. Here's a prospectus of what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you've used Claude a little bit because it's super helpful and you learn a little bit. And then you've talked to some people and then you've done your own reading and you synthesize this report. And you're pretty proud of it. And it's probably taken you a week. Right? And your coworker has gone to Gemini and said, here are the 7 functions of this. What can it do for me? And they've done something in an hour, a week, 40 hours, an hour. 40 hours, an hour. How do I assess which one's better? Is yours 40 times better than the hour? What happens if I say, hey, Isabel, that's pretty good, but Sam over here gave me something an hour after I talked to it, and that was good enough, so we got going with it.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know? Is satisficing? Is it literally that most work doesn't need good stuff? That's a question.
Yeah.
Is what is good enough to keep going? And if we keep just doing good enough, do we actually survive? Or does your report that took 40 hours provide the insight that makes that company survive instead of just stumble along, right? So the cost of that decision is easy to figure out, 40 to 1. The value of that decision is in the future.
Mm.
Right.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Second
Like,
thing, you've
would
learned a lot more in the 40 hours than I did in my hour.
exactly. Yeah.
So the next time something comes out, you've got something. And I just remember that I did something and I have to go look it up again.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even know what like, do you even read the output? Do you
No.
double check it? That's the stuff that I worry about. Like, are we gonna then lose the skills to do some of these things without the technology?
Right.
We're putting too much agency back on these tools and we're losing
Well,
the ability to do things.
or we're exposing the limited ability of a lot more workers. Right. So let me give a sport analogy. And the sport analogy, I'm a guy. Of course, a sport analogy, guys do them a lot more. But also, I'll do a programming analogy after this. One of the scarcest things in sport is real talent. Right. There's a
Mhm.
reason that Olympic athletes are so special because have you ever seen those videos of the Olympic runner? Like they have this picture of a mom who's an ex-Olympian doing a race with all the other moms at some right
I
right
haven't
and so
seen that,
she's
but
10 years out. She's not super fit, but they do
but
like a
still.
50-yard sprint and most of the women are at 5 yards and she's done.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, because her talent, her genetic talent, her experiences, her training, and so that you don't see it when she's just walking around until she does something like that, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So
Yeah.
the problem about cognitive talent is you can't see it. It's not like there's a bar above your head. Isabel can outperform this problem. But here's what we see. This is why they pay so much money in sport for the really talented, and why so many people who are pretty talented don't get very far, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of pretty talented people, right?
Mhm.
In the software development world in the 80s and 90s, we knew that there were some programmers who were literally 100 times more competent than the average programmer. Another way to say it is I could hire 100 people and get mediocre code, or hire this one person and they could get good code, right? Now, I didn't
Yeah.
pay that person 100 times more. I just prevented him from leaving or her from leaving. I would buy them food. I would put a staff person with them to document because I don't want them to waste time documenting. I would put up with them yelling at staff because 100 times better, right? Why do they pay lawyers so much? Some lawyers are worth 100 times more, right? AI, does it level that or does it exacerbate that? Yes, both, right?
Yeah.
But it leaves workforces thinking, I don't need a whole lot of workers, but the ones I want, they have to be better. I can't. So you're seeing this. In fact, there's an article today that said this again. There's a whole bunch of studies saying the premium on high performing workers is going up and low performing workers are getting let go faster and faster. Right? It's a neoliberal market. It's a capitalist market. Do I need to hire 10 people to do a shitty job? Well, I can hire 4 people and have them do a shitty job with AI. But I need the really good ones. How do I find them? It's a
And
really
I guess what I'm most curious about is like what happens to everybody else, because
right. I don't know. We seem to have a lot of people finding work right now. I just don't know what they're doing. Because they're certainly not working at the restaurants, and they're certainly not working at the airports. There's, I don't know where they are with this unemployment. There's a bunch of data from the National Bureau of Economic Research that points out that there's long-term unemployment is going up. People who've been looking for jobs for more than 9 months, mostly people in their 30s and 40s. Scary stuff, right?
yeah. I saw a recent article about recent graduates or soon to be graduates considering alternate paths at much higher rates than before.
Right.
The figures that, from this article were 38% are considering starting their own business, 32% are looking at gig work, 28% are exploring other freelance work, and
Yep.
11% are pursuing skilled trades. And most of this is out of necessity. So I'm just curious your take on that. Like, do you think are these alternative options are real solutions? Because you've studied gig work for a while and like
Right.
it's not super stable, right?
It's the best, worst job you can find.
It's the most, it's precarious work. That's what we've looked at.
Right. So 3 things. One, the way you frame the question aligns with something I've thought a lot about, which is we have justified or framed much of contemporary work around the traditional 40-hour concept of full-time work. factory work, right? You leave and go and come back. It's a place-based kind of work. It's a time-based kind of work. I clock in, clock out, normal working hours. We've made this concept of structured work the default, and it's been the default for probably 3 generations, 4 generations. It was unusual for most people to think of it that way at the turn of the last century, right? Maybe 30% of workforces were in factories, and it was a shitty job, but it was paid and it was structured, right? It fell apart during the Great Depression, and then World War II changed the path of most Americans and most people in the world, right? So we have this concept of a traditional job, which is actually unusual. It's only usual to those of us who've grown up since that became the default. Mm-hmm. But why is it the default, right? So second, I was born into believing these institutions like big companies, IBM. The company that I admired growing up that I thought I was going to work for was Bethlehem Steel. It won World War II. It closed. I watched it close. The company that won World War II was gone 50 years later. Yeah. Anyway, so I have struggled to reconcile this belief in these big institutions with the evidence that they're not nice to people.
No.
Like it kind of sucked to realize IBM doesn't actually care about its workers. It just needed its workers. So it cared enough to keep them around until, Yeah, right? HR is not about worker empowerment. It's protection of the institution. Yeah. So I've struggled with that. So, my belief may be ill-founded or at least not empirically supported. So first, it's not tradition. It may not, what we know may not be the norm. It's just a recent norm. 2, these big companies may not be the best thing. They've never been really good for women or people from underrepresented populations, right? Our data showed that, right? Right. And third, it's not clear that it's gotten better, right? So many of the people growing up right now have watched their older siblings, their guardians, their parents lose their job, to be discarded. They're being told you're going to have to get 7 jobs in your life. These companies lay people off. You hear all these stories. Yeah. I don't know if that's the path I want to take. Anyway, I wanted a big company. Both my sons work for small companies. They're like, it's impermanent, but at least it's impermanent. I know the person, right? So I think there's a real change in how people see work, right? And it's not something that I think we've directly addressed in our research. It's more like we've been telling people that work is not going to be permanent. And the evidence supports that. So find places where you can be in more control, where you can have a little more agency about your future. Right? Yeah. There's just too many stories that sound like the institution that you worked for took advantage of you, and so I just think that it's real. I don't think it's because they're like, I've always wanted to run a business. It's more like, given the options. Yeah. Right.
This seems like a pretty good one.
Right. Yeah. The second thing is, and I think it's really interesting, is that somehow in the 50s and 60s, in the 70s, we made it sound like the trades were a bad thing. Yeah. There's a joke that I've told a couple of times, where it's a husband and wife, and the husband calls up the wife and says, Hey, I was finally able to get the car in to the garage. It'll be January 4th. And the wife goes, that's terrible. That's when we got a plumber coming. The trades we're desperately needing. They pay well, right? We have a neighbor whose daughter went through high school, switched over to the kind of the trade school, BOCES in New York, and is a welder. Now she has to put up with a lot of shit from male welders.
As a female, yeah.
Yeah, but she's 20 years old and she's making $100,000 a year.
A lot of money.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of money. Many of her friends are going to finish college in debt and never make $100,000 a year,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know if college is the right thing for everybody, but we've taught people that.
Why? Why do you think we've taught people
Because
grades are
it
less
was
than
pretty clear
or
that knowledge work was the future. If again, if you look at the economy, um, those people who can make value out of knowledge, out of abstractions, are the engine of the economy, right? Much to the chagrin of the people who like, let's bring manufacturing back. Much of the money, much of the GDP in our country is driven by knowledge work,
Mhm.
right? And that knowledge work breaks down into four places: healthcare,
Yep.
uh, technology, computing, which is abstractions, right? Entertainment, and then services, legal services, um, uh, all sorts of things, grants, contracts. That there's money to be made in making things, and there's money to be made in the structure of making things, right? So a lot of money in knowledge work. And I think a lot of people looked around and said, boy, it's really hard work to work in a factory or in a mine. I'm tired at the end of the day. My body hurts, right?
Right.
And so I think there was this move to this looks like an easier job.
Yeah.
And then we paid them well.
Yeah. My mom jokes around that she thought people in office jobs like never really worked or didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah,
And now
exactly.
she
You're not
sees,
hot and sweaty.
right. And like now, when she sees me work or she sees other people that have office jobs and like we're sitting at our desk all day, have a bad back, we're tired, stressed. It's like it's just different, right? It's not
Right.
that we
Well,
didn't
exactly.
jobs just different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we can talk a lot about the structure of work, but this is your question, which is, I just think that this generation is growing up and looking around and saying, this is not this is not the view that I want.
Which is probably a good thing. So you're
Probably a
saying
good
it's probably
thing.
a good thing that we're not looking at the traditional 40-hour big company, those type of jobs. I think
So,
I like that. That's
you
it's
know,
a
so I think there's a little more room. Like I never knew that that there'd be this chance to be, I don't know, a full-time coach. It just seemed like it was impossible. But
Mm,
sport is a big deal right now. I didn't know that you could actually make a living being a tour guide.
yeah.
Right? There's these neat spaces, but I just think that the world is bigger, and in some sense, the access to social media has opened up people's eyes to not to be an influencer, but that there's way more jobs out there than the classic, are you going to be a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point. When you look at how technology is changing the current labor market, to you, what's something that surprises you?
All right.
Or
So
what surprises you the most of the current?
this is going to sound really naive, but it's probably in the last 20 years when I realized, holy shit, we live in a capitalist society.
Yeah.
Steve, no shit. Smart you, right? Okay, we all say that, but then it's kind of fundamental. Here's the thing: if we live in if capitalism, which I don't disagree or agree with, if it's just one form of organizing, but it's you need money to live in a capitalistic society because you have to buy your services, right? Nothing comes for free. I get that, right? We're not bartering like we might have, right? And maybe you live with in a neighborhood where maybe you exchange with a friend, and sometimes she watches your daughter, and sometimes you watch her son. I don't know,
Sure.
but generally there's an exchange, right? It's so fundamental in the United States. It's like, Steve, what do you? Yeah, I know. We breathe air, Steve. Come on, move on. Here's the thing. If you believe that people are out about trying to figure out how to make money more or less, most technologies are chasing income or chasing profit, right? So you make things that can make you money. And in some situations, you make things that can save you money, right? Do you have a Roomba? One of those,
Yeah.
right? Back to our original discussion about, I don't know how much is it, $300? because I'd rather have it do that than me have to
Yeah,
vacuum.
exactly. Spend time vacuuming or
Right. Right.
mop. Now there's mopping ones.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have a yard, there's a mower one, which yeah, I'm not sure I like that one because if it gets off the range, does it just drive around? Like,
Just, yeah, go free.
where did Fred the mower go? He's in the neighbor's yard.
Oh no.
Why did you make it a him? Because it's lost. So it's kind of anyway. Um, so I just think a lot about the fact that we're in a world where the technology is chasing money,
Mhm.
either to save it or make it. It's not
Mhm.
chasing social value or to make life better or easier. It's chasing money, right?
Right.
And that does two things. When I think about the contemporary labor markets, then I think about the fact that if I'm a company, I'm either going to use the technology to make me money, I'm going to buy people, I'm going to find the people I need to purchase, right?
Mhm.
Or I'm going to save money so I don't have to spend as much to get them, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm doing a low end job, I'm going to dumb down the job to the point where I don't have to do training and I don't have to build a career ladder. I can just replace people as they come and go. The Amazon warehouse, McDonald's, truck driving,
Mm.
cabbing,
Yeah.
right? Grad students. I just simplify the job so I can automate as much of it. And the person comes and goes and does the parts I can't automate. I'm just I don't want to spend too much time to hire people if I know they're going to leave in 3 months. Right? Or a year. So I can use the technology to save me money. And I think that's what you see in a lot of the labor market stuff now, which is the shitty video interviewing,
Yeah.
the resume screening, right? If I really cared about getting that person, I would talk to you.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
You've experienced it more recently than I have, right? Ugh,
I
it's
just
just
saw an
so
article about that. Like now they're trying to do, yeah, AI for all these to screen candidates. So not only in the resume process, but for interviewing now we're like not allowing the candidates to talk to someone to
right.
make it more efficient. And then I recently saw an article about like the companies making that tool, trying to figure out if the candidates are using AI to screen them out. Like this candidate's using AI, but wait, it's
So are
talking to
we.
an AI. Yeah,
Right.
like the hypocrisy there. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
it.
exactly. So it's just an arms race. So I'm also thinking, all right, in a capitalistic system, the people who have money can
To do that.
remake the market to work the way they want. Right? That's what market power is. You can say it's rigged, or you can say it's but I'm like, capitalism rewards power, right? Because we don't have rules to make it uh, a more fair marketplace that
Right.
would look like socialism to some, but it would look like limiting the innovation, right? So all this neoliberal free market. So there are some people like, why not take the governor off social media? Because you can get a lot of money by lying, right? Why control so much about entertainment? Because, hey, if you'll pay for it, like we forget that Rome spent a couple hundred years just having people come to watch people kill each other.
Yeah.
Like, let's not assume that they had Plato. Well, that's Greek actually, but you know, and Gladiator,
Hmm.
right? So I guess what I'm saying is, you know, what's the labor market look like? It looks like it's being controlled by powerful actors who
Yeah.
are quite willing to spend a lot of money to get high talent people, to cheat even,
Yeah.
and quite willing to cut costs when they don't need people as important.
So you're not surprised by any of this. You're just
Not at
like
all.
it's another wave, right?
It's just it's just a use. And so, you know, the things I think are interesting is when individuals figure out how to game the system. Back to your point about I'm going to use AI to improve my chances of being hired by AI. Do you remember, we've talked about this, and I've used this example so much that it's worn out. When the AI systems were first screening people's resumes online, one of the things people learned to do is it in white text on a piece of paper, on the digital document, they would put in keywords that would get them.
Yeah, just
scanned.
fill it with keywords for the
Yeah.
ATS system.
Yeah.
People will figure out how to game it.
Right. And now we can't do that. So, why did people start controlling the profiles? Because of that, right? So then people figure out, how can I game the profiles? So I'm kind of impressed, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Do you think there's anything that makes the current time unique, or is it just kind of playing things over, like when we move to a typewriter, or when we digitize things to a laptop versus paper form? Is it different, or is it just another kind of wave of automation, do you think?
No, it's another wave of automation, but the difference is that the current wave of automation has more technological agency. And it's that way because we've given it that, we haven't controlled it in the way that we have with numerical machines or with computing programs. But, starting in the 80s and 90s when we began to build rule-based systems where we thought we had control because we made the rules, right? So I think AI is different in the sense that we've delegated more responsibility to the machine without understanding the consequences of that responsibility, of that delegation, right? So again, 2 examples. We have up until literally the last couple of years, we have not allowed the weapons of war to have independent agency. So if I can go for another minute on this, back in the 80s, the United States began building systems of self-defense where essentially it was a machine that if you turned it on, it was on a ship, and if you turned it on, it had a radar, and the radar just scanned the horizon, and if something started coming toward the ship, the radar would track it, turn the guns to it, and the guns would fire at that thing until the thing went away.
Wow.
Right? It's called the Close-in Weapon System, CWIS. And so after a few highly publicized mistakes, you learned to turn off that close-in weapon system as you got close to a port, because you didn't want to shoot the passenger boats that came to see you, right? And you get worried at night because you might be out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and some couple is sailing across the Atlantic.
Oh, no.
And you didn't want to blow them to kingdom come, but, it was stupid. It didn't know. So it was up to the human to pay attention, right? Fast forward to the past couple of years where in the Ukraine, they're putting facial recognition technologies on drones. And they're like, if this person has anything that looks weapon-like, or if they're in this area, drive your drone right at them and blow up.
Yeah.
We are no longer human in the loop there.
Yeah.
Right. So we've crossed over it's a very small crossover from I'm just going to shoot out into the ocean or shoot out into the woods if somebody moves. Now I'm sending somebody like, I'm going to go find you and then shoot at you. I'm not going to wait for you. Right. The second thing is up until recently, we've not allowed machines to make decisions on humans about medicine. Right. But in cancer treatment, the data is coming back and saying, maybe we should stop spending money on this person because it's so expensive and they're going to die. Right? A doctor still has to walk in front of you and say, hey, your mom is going to have to, but we haven't allowed the machines to turn people off yet. But how fast? When will one of these for-profit insurance companies say, this is just too expensive?
Yeah. The stakes are high.
Stakes are high.
High.
There's a lot of money at play, it's a very scary thing, right? And so I just think that agency is different, and we're grappling with it for the very first time.
Yeah.
We already have delegated some of that responsibility to the insurance companies anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm trying to say is it's not a huge step, but it's a profound one.
Yeah.
That's all.
And the consequences are...
Yeah, uncertain.
Uncertain. Yeah, that's it. We don't have
Right.
the ability to measure the consequences just yet.
Yeah, just yet, right. We just and I don't know how you go backwards on it. When Sam Altman is saying maybe we should, not Sam Altman, the guy at Claude is saying maybe we should take a little break. At the same time that OpenAI is going from we're going to keep it out of we're not going to make it a for-profit company to starting one of the largest IPOs in the world,
Yeah.
right? I just think of the capitalism thing. So it's hard to separate out for me the technology and the environment that technology is coming through.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just sound like I don't know.
Do you, I'm also curious, like for the people that will remain in traditional roles, full-time, 40-hour, like is the power dynamic gonna change, do you think, with AI tools in the mix?
Well, let's go back to that question again, Isabel. So, what percentage of the U.S. workforce or the world workforce works in a 40-hour job? Let's do it this way.
Mhm.
Here's a game I'm going to play. There's 170 million people of work, maybe 180 million people of working age right now. Actually, maybe 230. There's 330 million Americans. Maybe 220 million of them are of working age. Working age between 16 and 65.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe can go a little bit bigger, but roughly that number, right? So there's 230, 240 million Americans that could be working. Right now, the labor force is about 170 million.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 70 million people who, quote unquote, aren't working, but are of working age. Now, some of them, 10 or 12 million of them are between 16 and 24 and are going to college and may or may not be working very much, right? There's probably about 10 million people that are doing sex work or selling drugs. And so they're working very hard. We're just not collecting income tax on them, right? There's a bunch of people who've decided not to work, right? I think one in every 11 stay-home parents right now is a male. 9% of stay-home parents are male, but only maybe 20 million households out of 120 million have a stay-home parent, right? So there's chunks. There's a bunch of people who are unemployed but are looking for jobs. There's a bunch of people who are unemployed and aren't looking for jobs. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people who are between jobs. There's a small but ever larger number of people who don't have to work because they have familial wealth.
Yep.
Right? But 170 million of the 330 million people are working. Of those, let's take out the ones that are in government, because government right now is a full-time 40-hour-a-week job. Let's take out the military. Let's take out some of those structured jobs.
Right.
In the private sector workforce, maybe 120 million people at this point, 130, maybe 40 million of them have a stable 40-hour-a-week job.
Wow.
Right? If somebody works at Walmart, they're probably working under 36 hours a week, because if they work more than 36 hours a week, they would
Have to pay benefits and
have to
things.
get paid benefits. And if we lowered the 36 hours to 32 to get benefits, they'd all get 5 hours less work, right? Because the company would just cut back on the number of hours. Because the companies don't want to spend the money on,
Yeah.
right? Why don't we just, anyway, the only people who seem to not want to have nationalized healthcare are white male Republicans, because any company was like, just please let me not have to manage healthcare. Actually, the people who own insurance companies also wanted to stay this way because they're making a shit ton of money. But and that Walmart worker or Target worker, I don't have to pick on Walmart, has probably got a second job.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Of the 40 million that are in these stable jobs, we lay them off at a pretty high clip because, they're expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Syracuse is super happy for me to retire. Not because they don't like me.
You're expensive.
I'm expensive. And
Yeah.
I'm not producing at the same level. I'm not teaching as many courses because I'm smart enough. And anyway,
Yeah.
to figure out how to get other parts of the job, right?
Yeah.
So they can replace me with 2 people,
Yeah.
right? Or 8. and pay them part-time, right? But they'll replace me probably over the years with if they replace me with one person at half my price but teaches 3 times as much,
That's a good deal for them. Yeah.
it's a good deal for
They'll
them.
take it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they were quite happy to see me retire. Oh, Steve, we're going to miss you. Could we have your office on August? um, and so I get it, right? And I got there because I think what's going to happen in the next couple of years is AI is going to make it easier for people not to have to work as much, and for a few people to work an awful lot.
Mm. Do you think those people working an awful lot are actually going to get compensated well, or is this
They'll get compensated better than the people who are working less. But the question is, how long do they want to keep up with that? Will they just, my son, the lawyer, I don't think he can keep up this 80-hour a week, but he's being paid insanely well,
Yeah.
right? So maybe he gets another 10 years and he's like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, dude, you were never expected to.
Yeah.
Right? That's the cost of the job. You pay you well. In the same way that, hey, congratulations, you're a great football player. You have unbelievable talent. But the average NFL football player is 3 years. The average basketball player is 2.5.
Yeah. For sure.
So I just think you're going to see that this intensity of certain jobs, and then more people getting less involved in work.
Okay.
Or they'll run their own business, or they'll sell stuff on Etsy, or they'll cobble together stuff, right?
Right.
Because I don't know what the other paths are.
Yeah.
They'll start their restaurants. They'll do garage stuff. They'll, how many people do you know that are doing parties or event management or just all these things around the photography on the side?
On the side, yeah. Yeah,
the side hustle.
The side hustle now is ever more present in the
right.
society. Yeah.
How many side hustles do I need to have a hustle?
Yeah, that's a trick question.
Right.
Limited amount. Yeah. All right.
And if benefits were available, if healthcare benefits available, I think a lot of stress would come out of the system.
Yeah. Do you think that's ever going to change in the near future? I don't know.
I would think in the next decade or two it's going to have to.
Okay.
Not because there's some political.
Not because they want to do this, but it'll be.
Well,
of course.
I just think that something's going to happen because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Not because it's moral, but because it's so costly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. So let's do a couple rapid fire here. So what skills would you recommend to someone who's starting their career out right now?
I'm going to use the term, I think that we've always wanted to focus on durable skills as opposed to point skills. Here's some durable skills. Empathy, the ability to relate to others, right? Well underappreciated in the past couple of decades.
Yeah.
The ability to build consensus and to draw people together toward a common goal and to build relationships and focus, right? Not to order, but to guide. Mm-hmm. The ability to do lateral thinking. Those three are classically parts of a liberal arts education, which has a negative connotation right now. But the ability to think laterally, the ability to bring together ideas, the ability to understand different perspectives, the ability to synthesize, right? Not just to ask a machine to synthesize, but actually to pull together disparate ideas into a common thing, right? The ability to understand a situation, right? And here's the example I give. Sometimes you have a friend and you meet their new partner and you and your friend say that's never going to work, or what a great match. Yeah. What understanding that do you have that makes that prediction, right? Which is different than the 9 questions on one of those dating sites, right? So that's that ability to look and say, this is not going well. That's situational awareness, which is both reading what's going on, but also understanding the bigger picture. AI can't do that. It can say, this doesn't align with things I've done before. I think those are really important, right? Occupational knowledge. Those are, to me, are durable skills. Skills that are learned by doing and interacting, skills that are learned by reading, write. I took the reading and writing thing off because there, I think, actually AI can help us a lot to express, right? You still, like, if you don't know enough to how to write, then you're going to write badly with AI. But if you know enough about how to write, AI will help you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's one of the things that I was talking to somebody else recently about, like, reading and writing to me are like core skills that, yeah, I think you're right. It's going to make good writers much better. And then people that are not good at it, it's going to go downhill from here.
Do you know the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah, right? Like, you think you're...
Those of you who, if you don't know something,
you
you're
don't
unable
know.
to assess whether you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you do know it, you understand
You
your
feel less.
limitations.
Yeah. You feel like you don't know enough. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really important insight, which is how do we help the people who actually know something to feel more confident and to leverage it? And wouldn't it be nice if the AI came back and said, that's not a very good question because it indicates that you don't know what you're asking.
I love that.
But if it did that, you'd stop using that system.
Yeah.
Like,
this effect actually came up when I was talking to Karis earlier in the week. So I think we're on to something here.
Right. The systems are designed to be sycophantic, to make you feel better. So they won't tell you you're asking a stupid question, right?
Right.
But I would rather have, could I have the grumpy old man filter, please?
Please. Yeah. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, exactly. And we might get there, actually. We might get there because this, just agreeing with everything it's not going to be durable in the long run here for us. Okay. Is there an idea or resource that shaped how you think about the future of work?
I think I've already talked about this, this being this kind of techno dweeb in the late 1970s, early 1980s, coming in and feeling like I was really smart. I could understand a lot of stuff. And then watching it founder on these 60-year-old men who were just they weren't nice or mean. They were just really skilled at a trade and could see well. And I thought, there's something, I need to know more about this, right? I was so impressed with their expertise. And so I read a lot about work, like literally, how does somebody become good at what they do? That was there's a book called Working. That I was Studs Terkel, Terkel. There's also, that was really fundamental to my thinking. There's also a book written called The Men and Women of the Firm, and it was a female researcher who wrote about the human cost of automation in the 70s. And it was powerful to me. Yeah.
That might be a good one to dust off now.
Yeah. I don't know how well it would stand up now, but at the moment it was so like, it just resonated with everything I saw and heard.
Yeah.
In ways that none of the management text and technology text did, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
I was waiting for you to ask this one.
This is my favorite question.
When I was first working, my mentor at the time gave me he was a retired Marine Corps colonel. So I'm in this office with this guy that's been in Vietnam, has led men into, literally has seen people, and he says, soon after you get used to where you are, it'll be the people. So make a place where you want the people you like and you want to be with. Right? Because everything else will fade away, but the people will always be what you remember. So find the people you want to work with, or go to a place with the people you want. And I've always thought about that.
I love that. That's great advice.
Yeah, it was great advice. The other thing he said is, if it's not going well, you have two choices: make it better or get out of the way.
Wow, that's good. That's also good.
If you can't make it better, get out of the way. And so it was great. It was great. And then a third piece of advice, one of my mentors in academia said, We should always tell people when we like something because we're so trained to tell people when we
I
don't.
love that one too. Yeah.
So, tell somebody, write them when somebody's written a paper you really like, or they've done something, write them, say, thank you. That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear that nearly enough.
Yeah. That's great advice too. I think all three pieces of advice are very useful.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you can assess whether I actually follow them or not because you've seen me do it or not. Anyway.
yeah, you have. Yeah, exactly. I think you do it. I think you follow all these pieces of advice that you've received.
Right.
I mean, I hope you work with the people you like. I
I
know.
work with the people I like. That's the one I can like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love
And I
it.
don't work with people I don't like. I just stop,
Yeah.
which is hard in classes. But
Yeah. Exactly. Well, now you're done with teaching, so you don't have to worry about it.
okay.
Nice. Um, well, this has been so super insightful. Is there anything else on your mind that you didn't get to come across, or any other parting words here?
There's a question you said, what gives you hope about the future?
Yeah.
And the evidence again and again and again is that people prevail. The arc of history is toward people,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I always think about that. And I could go in a lot of detail about it, but I just always think we typically frame change as a negative, but people tend to shift it back in their favor, right?
We come out on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, often, a lot of people die. It's not good. But we tend to find the better path.
That's a great optimistic note to end on, I think. So I appreciate your thoughtful responses, and this was super, super insightful. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for thinking I had thoughtful responses and for letting me wander. And it was lovely to chat with you. I miss these chats.